Hey, this is Jeffrey Aguirre back with you for another app description video. And so my partner for this program was Timmy, and so we're just going to get right into the demo first of our app called HowMad, and then I'll give a slow run through and give a description on our challenges and whatnot. Alright, so here we are, is the main screen, and I'm going to input my text. And click Analyze. And here we are with the results page. And so first I'll give you a background. So we built the app with the intention of being able to read long text and returning a sentiment value. And so we used a Microsoft API called Text Analytics to be able to determine a sentiment value from a text passed to the app. So the app is targeted toward people who don't really want to read long text that they receive from either a friend or a significant other. And so they just put their text into our app, and it tells them how mad that the sender may or may not be. And so they can use a result to approach a response, whether it's happy or sad or not. And so the way that the API works is that it analyzes a text input and returns a sentiment value ranging from 0 to 1, with 0 being the most angry and 1 being the most happy. And so we used a parser similar to the MP3 parser to parse the JSON file to get a value based on different ranges. We would return if the sender was very mad in the low range, moderately mad in the mid range, slightly mad in the slightly higher range, or not mad at all. And so here I'm going to go back to the app. Here is our main page. So over here we have just a little instruction text. And here we have a text input where you can either type in manually or paste a text from the sender or messages. And so then you would click Analyze, and this would start the analyzation and take you to the results page. And so as you can see, the result doesn't show anything that's useful to the sender, unfortunately. And so that's because we faced a big challenge at the end that we couldn't get past called a file not found exception. And so for reasons that we're not still sure about, while making the API request, our endpoint website provided by Microsoft isn't being recognized. Ideally, this box right here would show, well, in this case, that the sender is not angry. However, we couldn't figure out what was causing the error in time, so we just have a try-catch block to print out the error and the results box so that it doesn't crash. And so ideally it would return a sentiment message, but this is just how our app is as it is right now. So the first major obstacle we faced was in adapting to not really being provided any starter code, and so we just figured out like all these imports we had to make and what dependencies were and how to get JSON libraries in. And so after a lot of Googling, we got that down. And after that, getting a lot of the coding and designing done was very smooth until we reached pretty much the end, where we ran into a duplicate class error. And the fix to that ended up being just updating a version of our Android Play service dependency. But we went through a lot of other options before that. And so the biggest problem we faced after that was that our app kept crashing. So first it had to do with invoking a method on a null object, which was because we didn't have some button handlers set up, or some of our buttons were null. But it took a little bit of fidgeting to realize what was going on. And then it was that we were making a network request on a main thread. And so we just had to work with putting some code into our main activity on create so that we could work around that. And so last, it was our biggest challenge was at the file not found exception, which we at least got to realize what was happening there, and so we caught it and handled it so that it wouldn't crash at runtime anymore, and it would just print the error into the results box. But unfortunately, we weren't able to get the app functioning as we would like to. And so as for the work split up, Timmy was in charge of the overall design of the app and making a clean and smooth UI interface for so that the user can have a smooth transition and it's easy to interpret what's going on. And then I was in charge of most of the library section and coding the analyzation and parsing the JSON and just working with some of the activities. And so later, when we brought our work together, we worked equally on debugging the code and figuring out what was causing the crashes or some compile time errors. And so we both did a lot of Googling and a lot of just trial and error on working around the major errors. But ultimately, this is just as much as we have. And if we learned anything from doing this app is working with errors and debugging code. And that's pretty much it.